Welcome to the Manufacturing Shakeup. We're your hosts, Ellen Feldman-Ornato
and Jenny Drescher. We're talking with dynamic women from across the manufacturing scene in Connecticut. Hello, friends out in Cyberland. Welcome to the Manufacturing Shakeup. I am your host, Jenny Drescher, here with my co-host, Ellen Feldman-Ornato, and today's guest is Monica Hilgarth of Hampford Research from Stratford, Connecticut. Monica, welcome to the Shakeup.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ellen told me something earlier today about you that I don't know anything about you. So Ellen told me something today that I would love for you to introduce yourself with in some fashion, because I think it's super cool. So give us a 30-second snapshot about you. And the thing Ellen told me was that you are a big fan of understanding when to take no for an answer. So I'm just going to hit you hard right out of the gate with those two questions.
Yeah, so as you know, I work at Hampford Research. I'm the lab services manager. So that means I handle the quality control laboratory as well as the research and development here. But I do have like 30 years of experience in all different kinds of industries. And somewhere along the way, my boss was giving me feedback and he said, Monica, you take no for an answer too easily. And I thought about that. And I went, oh my God, I do. And I was trying to get someone hired. And someone told me no. And I went, oh, okay, And the reality was we really needed this person. She was an intern, had graduated, and we should have either hired her or let her go because she was no longer in school. And instead, she was still being treated as an internship, and I was out to justify her position. And the first answer I got was no. And I went back and thought about it. What do they need to hear? What do they need to know in order to turn this no into a yes? And it really changed how I approached my job, especially in management, and what I needed to do and look for in terms of turning that no into a yes.
So I have a question about that. What do you think there is from your earlier training? Because I know you have a bachelor's and a master's, and it's all in very technical fields. What was it about your training or just how you walk through the world that had you accepting no as an answer up until that point?
So science in general is very cut and dry often, right? The answer's the answer. It's either passing or it's failing. There is no in between. Mm-hmm. It's either working or it's not working. In addition to that, quite honestly, my whole background, my family's rule followers. I come from a family of rule followers. So I was used to that, right? If someone said no to this, or you can't well, maybe not, you can't do that. That usually didn't work on me. But that this was a rule, you have to be here at this time or you have to do this way. My inclination was to do that and to not realize that those boundaries can be blurry, right? Mm-hmm. It's not always cut and dry.
Yeah.
I think this is an incredibly important thing that we're bringing into this conversation today on the Shakeup, because so many people that we talk to, guests that we have, people that we work with when we're working with manufacturers in our capacity as Boulder Company, this whole role of rules and it has to be a certain way and there's a certain track and it's either a yes or a no. It's a 0 or a 1, right? It's binary, it's code, right? Is something that is critical for us to be thinking about in this space, right? It's so important for us to be challenging these assumptions. So in your opinion, in your years doing this work, where are the places where it's super important for us to be really linear, it's a 0 or a 1, it's a yes or a no, and where are the places where it's important for us to be just like sort of maybe pulling that apart at the seams? What have you noticed over the course of your career?
Well, certainly if we're talking about product quality, there's no gray. Right. Either it's passing the requirements, and we have to consider the safety of the public and things like that, depending on what industry you're in. You don't want to go to the grocery store and purchase something that isn't safe for you, right? And somebody went, oh, well, I thought it would be okay today, right?
No, this milk was only sour yesterday, but it's
That's right.
fine now.
We're flexible in our expiration dates. No problem.
Right. And so for pharmaceuticals, right? Things like that go through a lot of rigor, and they have to. But if you're looking at improving your environment, so you need a new piece of equipment or a new instrument, yes, there's always budget constraints. But just because someone says, no, you can't purchase this, that means, no, you can't purchase this right now. Or
Mm.
it means, I didn't explain to you properly why I need this. Is it going to save time? Is it going to save money? How is it going to pay for itself? Or in terms of headcount, why do I need this additional person? What is it going to gain the company or the
Mhm.
project or the business unit, whatever the case may be at the level you're looking at? Or in terms of how you're doing your day-to-day work. Maybe they've always done it this way, and you have a new, fresh idea of how you can do a test better or create a new chemical if you're in research, whatever the case may be. And your project lead says no. Well, how do I get them to say, yes, I believe in this idea? Maybe we just need to talk about it further and not just take the first no as a no.
I love two things that you said. One is that you talked about, when we're working with developing leaders, very often we're talking to them about how to make what we call an executive ask. Like, how do you build the case and understand enough about what's going to have impact with that decision maker to build the case to bring to them? And how do I do it in a concise way that resonates with that leader? So you've got somebody really detail oriented. You're not going to want to talk high level. And if it's somebody who's very high level, you don't want to kill them and bury them with details. So I love the fact that you're talking about building an executive ask and understanding how to influence others almost regardless of their status within your organization, their position within your organization. I really appreciate that.
And technical people tend to go one of two ways. It's obvious. How come they don't understand I need this? It's so obvious. Or we bury people with the details, and it's all this
Mm.
technical jargon that they don't understand. Typically, the person who's deciding, at least in terms of equipment and instrumentation, will often not have a technical background. So they don't know. You have
So you
to
have
be
to compel them.
You have to be able to explain that to them and why it's necessary.
Right.
Yeah.
And in numbers that they understand, right? So that's another thing that I heard from what you just said was it's not just that I need this piece of equipment. I need this piece of equipment because, and this is the impact that it's going to have, and this is how it's affecting us because we don't have it. Sort of that whole conversation about how do you start to learn how to influence other people's decisions.
Yeah. And that goes for anything, equipment, people, you want to change a process. You have to be able to communicate to people why. And it can't just be, it'll be better.
Yep.
That's not enough for people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hearing a couple of different things here that are really important for our listeners. As you know, our listeners, hey, everybody. Yeah, you at the stoplight. Our listeners are largely women who are on a strong career track in manufacturing. And, the podcast is all about really helping people with little nuggets to help them along their career trajectory and what it is that they're trying to do next for themselves in their field inside this space. And the thing that's coming out of the way you're talking about this is creating a path to yes. Like you're using these specific things as a way of creating a path to yes. And I think that's super important for women. You made a comment in our little pre-interview about how women maybe sell themselves short at times and don't create their path to yes. Like, can you just talk about that for a minute, about where you've seen that in your career and how these tactics you've described for creating a path to yes have helped you overcome some challenges?
Yeah, so I often see that in negotiation, right? Women are quick. It's not exactly yes, but maybe they're looking for a certain salary, and instead of asking for it or actually really asking for it or countering an offer, they think the first offer is the only one I'm going to get, right? And
Mhm.
that they don't understand that if you've gotten that far, people want you. So it's okay to say, well, no, I really think I should have whatever that is, or to ask for vacation time. If you already have had a career for a long time, I have seen this. You've already been in jobs, you have 10, 15 years of experience. You shouldn't be taking another job without asking for some PTO or vacation time up front. You're not starting at the bottom. And
Yes.
I've inherited people reporting to me where I've looked at their vacation time and I said, what happened here? Well, they didn't think I should ask for some vacation. And unfortunately, a lot of companies will not just automatically do that. They won't
Yes.
look at you and say you already have 10 years or 15 years experience or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And they will just start you right at the bottom. Um, for myself, my husband had really honestly he helped a lot. He's an IT guy. Those guys negotiate all the time, right? They're very, very much into that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was working a contract job. It's a long story, so I'll keep it short. And I was at one site, and then they said they didn't need me anymore. And they asked me to restart. And Monica, will you work for less? And I said, no, no, I won't. And I wasn't afraid to say that. And guess what? They paid me the same as the previous job, and on top of that all, I said, I don't want to stay in a hotel. So they got me an apartment. I asked for what I needed in order to make it um, a good environment for me and for what I needed. And it was fine. So I think women, more so than men, tend to do this and to sell themselves short. We also tend to not apply for a job. If the job has all these requirements and we look at it and say, oh my gosh, I don't have this one thing. Well, you have 95% of it.
Right.
What's the
Mm-hmm.
worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
They may not hire you, but they might, and they might talk to you about it. And you may get a new experience and something new that you want to do. So that's something, even before hearing, I took no too easily for an answer that I really tried to do with my career. So I've worked in a lot of different places and in a lot of different areas. And even there was a company I was at for 16 years, but I never did the same thing for more than maybe 2, 3 years, always growing and looking at, oh, Monica, we could use you in this group. Okay, I can do that. I can
Mhm.
do it or I can learn it and it'll be fine. And I
Yeah.
think oftentimes we think everything has to be perfect.
Mhm.
So even with our own careers, aside from asking for, equipment or people or resources, we just think we have to have it all perfect and we're afraid to ask.
Well, one of the things that I think our listeners would really appreciate, and it doesn't have to be in depth, but there's a bouncing ball in your career trajectory of the different kinds of places that you've worked that I think would be really great for you to talk about because you have been in so many different industries, carrying your skills forward. Can you just give a quick, like, skip the stone across the top of the pond and tell us the different industries that you've been in?
Yeah, I've worked in analytical for a major chemical company. I've done paints and coatings. I then went into semiconductor chemicals, not actually making the semiconductor chips, but supplying the materials. I've done plastics, and now I'm at a small specialty chemical company. So they were a wide range of positions, all learning a lot of different things that I could use from one job to the next. And the other thing that often people get a little hung up on is staying in one industry. Right. Now, it's true that all the industries pay differently. So if you're in pharmaceutical, for example, that really pays, right? And other more commodity chemical industries, or depending on what manufacturing you're part of, the pay is going to always be a little bit different. But just because you have no experience in one industry does not mean you can't take what you've learned and apply it to a different industry if you're interested. And that you just have to learn how to sell yourself, right? And look at the things that you've done before. How will this apply to a new position? Or what things are the same? You know, a lot of jobs have a lot of similarities. At the end of the day, I'm a chemist. So I'm either testing something, making something, following directions, writing up procedures. That's all the same. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Right. But you know what's interesting, as you're talking through the way you've used your curiosity to guide you, which is how I'm perceiving some of what you're the way the track you've been on, is I feel like there's another consistent beat here, which is, what do I need to thrive, and what matters to me next? I feel like those are two questions that are present in every beat that you've just described, whether it's negotiating for a salary, looking for a next job. It would never occur to me either, this, to go back to something you said about asking for more vacation or PTO, or like, that would never occur to me, right? So the underpinning here that is so useful, that I'm going to encourage our listeners to take as a shake-up factor out of today's episode, is like consistently saying, what do I need right now to thrive? And how do I build the case for it? Right? Like digging deeper, letting that be something that guides your thinking and puts you at the center of your career too, right? Because you say it's all the same. Like, yeah, some of these activities may be different, but you're still at the heartbeat of it. And it's still, you get to have a career that's about you, by you, for you, where you can be consistent. And that's so stabilizing, right? Because how stabilizing is that for all the other parts of your life that can, you know, we all have chaos that can rain down on us sometimes, right? Because life. So that I love that you're just, I feel like you're approaching so many aspects of your career from this really grounded place because of those key questions.
Yeah, or we think we don't have control. And of course, to some extent, you don't. You know, I've been laid off. I'm sure many of our listeners have, and it happens. But while you are at a company, or you decide to make a job change or whatever, you are in control of what you decide to learn, how you want to develop, and where you want to go. And so many organizations are flatter these days. You kind of have to look laterally too. You know, can I just change groups and learn something new? If you're in a bigger company, is there a role that's not being fulfilled? Am I willing to take that on? As long as you're not overloaded, of course. But do I see a gap somewhere? And where I can take this over? And I guarantee you, no one will tell you, oh no, because they probably noticed there's that gap and are hoping someone takes it. Or if they do tell you no, now you're back to, how do I get that to be a yes? Right? Why do I want to do this? How do I justify?
Right? You're a good podcast host. You just picked up where we started. I love that.
Right.
And just in perfect time, because we're winding down, I want to give back to our audience a couple of shake-up factors from today. Create that path to yes. Right? Just because no comes at you the first time around, it's okay for you to look at that no and go, yeah, that's a no for now. Thank you very much. Dig deeper. Like shake-up factor 2, I'm going to say dig deeper. Like really reflect and understand, like what is underneath the surface of this. That strikes me as really juicy, to sort of dig deeper and think thoroughly about what it is you're asking, why you're asking it, what's important to you. Ellen, any other shake-up factors? I mean, I feel like there are a million here from Monica, whose career has been rich. Any others jumping out from your point of view today?
Well, the following your curiosity piece, right? To be willing to, as you said, move laterally within an organization, jump to a different industry that has the same sort of functional job, but giving yourself permission to follow your curiosity to a next step and to understand that careers aren't meant to be linear, right? And once you drop that expectation that I'm going to continue to go up in a linear fashion, you can really widen your lens and start to look at what are all the opportunities that might be available to me here, and how can I build my tool belt by pursuing something that I'm curious about. There is one last thing that I want to mention, Jenny, that I think is just really going to light you up, which is, Monica, can you tell us about the connection between chemistry and baking? Because I found out something about Monica. Look at Jenny's eyes light up.
So many chemists are really good bakers because you have to be precise and accurate. And I had mentioned that one time when I was unemployed, I took the opportunity to learn how to make caramel and then how to make tempered chocolate. And then I started making chocolate covered caramels. And it was a big hit, extremely time consuming, and I didn't even make any this year. So I'm sure all my friends would love me to be unemployed again so that I could make these all the time. But
As well as your podcast host, I'll just throw that in there.
That's right. That's right. Everybody that we interviewed that has food, they have to send food to us. There's a rule. This is a shake-up rule that we have.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's very scientific. You have to wait for winter for the
Yes.
humidity to go down, because
Yes.
otherwise we will run out our chocolate.
Of course we do. I'm completely on board with this. Yes, baking is all chemistry. We could do an entire episode all about that.
We could.
And
Yes.
people would say you are very silly, but that's okay. So for our friends out there, thanks for joining us today. We hope that you will go and find something in your life the next time it comes along that you don't necessarily have to take no the first time. We dare you. See what happens. Try it on. Post it on social media. Like, what happened when you said, yeah, that's just a no for now. Monica, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on out in the chemistry and baking world here in our fabulous state of Connecticut.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Thanks, Monica. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturing Shakeup. You can listen to us each week on your favorite podcast app. You'll find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And if you use the hashtag MFG Shakeup, we will see them and really appreciate your spreading the word about what you're hearing and learning each week. Hey, Jenny, did I forget anything?
Yes, you did. Here's the most important bit. You may have learned something from that guest. They may have told a story about, oh, here's what I did and here how it worked. Here at the Manufacturing Shakeup, we are all about action. So take some nugget of what you heard today and put it into practice, even if it's small and experimental. Get busy, get dangerous, go shake stuff up and bring people along with you. Go take an action, post it on social media. Let's have some fun.
The Manufacturing Shakeup is sponsored by the Connecticut Office of Manufacturing, produced by Maselli Productions and Gale Communications, and hosted by the Boulder Company.